The best speakers are wildly inconsistent, and that's honestly the point. I've said speeches in front of 2,000 people before, quite a few times actually. I've competed and won public speaking competitions, and I've received a few standing ovations. And the guiding principle, the North Star, the pillar behind, that roots all of my speeches is reject balance. I really don't like the idea of balance. And what I mean by that, I could say it more emphatically and passionately, like, yeah, kill balance. It's not that crazy. Essentially, there's a concept. We have blue and we have red here, right? This is basic color theory. When we mix them together, what do we get? We get purple and a dead Koki. Okay, I might be blue, for example. Red is essentially the complete opposite of what I am. That doesn't mean that I don't like red. I actually respect red because red, he's saying, this is, I'm opposite to you, Luca, but I own it. I own it the same way you own it. I'm proud of it. I'll show it and I'll fight for it. But people that are purple, they don't know what they are. They're just in the middle. They kind of blah. They kind of meh. They kind of bland. Okay. And this isn't some, psychoanalysis of people or whatever. What I'm getting at with this is in our speeches, we have a graph. Now, I don't know what the x and the y axis is, okay? But essentially, we can operate in the middle. We can be monotone. We can go around here a bit, operate there, play it safe, not take many risks at all for that matter. Operate, play it safe, stay around the ground zero point, and we can have a decent speech. People will clap and it'll be okay. We'll survive. Okay. But I don't like that. I like taking a little bit more risk, showing a bit more passion, a bit more flame, a bit more high, and eventually a bit more low. What I mean by that, whatever that is essentially we want to make a decision here and we want to own it. We want to be red or we want to be blue, but we're not going to be purple. Okay? We're going to be angry, then we're going to be happy. We're going to be sad, and then we're going to be, okay, happy. We're going to be high energy, and we're going to be low energy. We're going to have a high pitch and then a low pitch. We're going to speak very fast, then we're going to have very slow. We're going to have big pauses followed by short, random bursts of little pauses. We're going to have laughter and we're going to have sadness. We're going to contrast our masculinity with some more feminine, maybe flamboyant traits. We're going to have competence and then we're going to have warmth. Does that make sense? So there's going to be always a contrast. We're going to be blue, then we're going to be red. We're going to be blue, then we'll be red. Then we'll be green, and then we'll be no. We won't be green because that's blue and yellow. We'll be black, then we'll be white. We'll be black, then we'll be white, but we won't ever be gray. Does that make sense? So blue, red, not purple. That is purple. All right, that is the definition of purple. You survive, you operate, but you're just a little fern. You're a little shrub in the Amazon. We want to be, poof, big trees that get all the sunlight. So big, massive trees that get all the sunlight. Or we want to be deep ass roots that get all the water. Both are good, both are essential. All right, sunlight is essential, water is essential. We need both, but you can't necessarily do both at the same time. So here we'll get all the sunlight, and then here we'll get all the water and the moisture. Are things clicking now? So, and then that is the ground zero. This is where the shrubs are, right? The shrubs grow around there. They don't get much of anything. They kind of get both at the same time. That's a cool benefit, but they're literally just a little shrub, a fern. Rodents poo in them. Does that make sense? So they're not that cool. Here, birds poo on us, but whatever. So, what I'm talking about here is literally the idea of contrast. Hot, cold, yes, no, up, down, high energy, low energy. Okay. I was just going to talk about little conversations where in conversation I do it. People think, oh, Luca, you're so cool and energetic. And then the next day, I'm almost distant and I barely talk to them. I just give them a fist bump and I say, yo, what's up? I just walk away. And then the next day I'm very warm. Yo, how was your holiday? How was your weekend? Yo, that's amazing. Smiling. And then they don't know what I am or who I am. And they want to find out more. That's kind of like a speech. Same concept, same theory. Whether it's a one-on-one interaction or 1 and 2,000 interaction. The 2,000 is essentially just one being as well. It's one crowd, one human, one crowd. Yeah, there's 2,000 people in the crowd, but it's just one kind of interaction here. You speaking to them. So it's a very similar dynamic here. So what we're going to talk about is the different things we can contrast. So yes, in our stories, in our speeches, we're going to have a lot, for example, in a story, we're going to have loads of humor. We're going to be high and energetic and fun and bubbly and warm. We're going to make heaps of jokes within the first 30 seconds, get the guard down of the audience. They're going to laugh. They're going to enjoy it. I hope this mic is picking up everything I'm saying. They're going to have a good time. It's going to be a very warm setting and environment. Almost high energy. And then out of nowhere, at the end of it, we're going to take all that warmth away. And we're going to drop real deep. And we're going to have a lot of depth and meaning and deep transformation and a deep realization in our story. And it's going to be deep, and we're going to move them, we're going to touch them, we're going to have their hearts in our hands, in the palm of our hands. That is the story. That is what we're going for, right? There needs to be some substance, some meaning. And I'm sorry for messing with this mic. It's just really getting on my nerves, guys. How's that? Okay, but we can only get that depth. We can only get that meaning. We can only get that transformation if we are going up this high. If we are having that much humor, that much warmth, right? Because the higher we go, the deeper we can cut into the hearts of our audience. Okay, and the same thing goes for energy. We can only, or let's say we're very warm again. We're very warm, we're smiley, we are energetic. We're saying, hey, everyone, how was your weekend in the meeting or in the presentation? Here's something new I found. Here's this new discovery I found in our talk at a medical conference or whatever. And then we contrast that with a very competence, with loads of competence and almost masculinity. And we're deep, and we have a strong, stern face, and we have, so it's a smile, and then it's almost like a frown, a masculine leader look. It is, I'm talking about body language and facial expression here. So it's smiling, then your open body language, and it's very open palms, and hey guys, I'm just suggesting ideas here. And you can sometimes contrast that with, you want to do this, we're going to do that, you're going to do that, we're going to do this. And it's very happy and smiley and warm. And then you have deep thought, and you want to squint your eyes a bit, and you contrast that warmth with that competence. Does that make sense? So we really need a contrast here. Okay, and what can we contrast? We can contrast high pitch with a low pitch voice. So we can, there's times where we're going to be really excited, maybe not that high like Elmo, but we're going to say, I know, right? That's quite a high pitch. And in that moment, I'm thinking, who just leaves like that on the spot without ever saying goodbye? What a psychopath, I know, right? And there's going to be times where we're going to have a deeper voice, and we're going to have a deep realization, and our pain will be so strong that we can barely say the words out of our mouth the way they should be said. In that moment, I realized I didn't like watching football. I liked spending quality time with my dad. Time where I didn't have to live up to be someone I'm not. Time where I could just be me. Does that make sense? So we're going to have a high pitch, I know, right? Low voice, because the pain cuts so deeply into my heart, I can barely say the words. Does that make sense? So speaking fast and slow. So there's going to be times in a story or a speech where we're building up like a climax, a roller coaster, right? It goes, woo, okay? Roller coaster vibe. There's going to be times where we're building up and we're going to the top, and we speak really fast, and everything's going up, and we're very excited, and everything's finally falling into place, and the girl sits next to me in the airplane, and she says a word to me, and I think, wow, this is going to be amazing, we're going to get married and live happily ever after. But then when we land and everyone begins to get up and get their luggage, I can start speaking slower, because I know I have the audience where I want them, and whatever I say from now on, they will listen, And so she grabs her luggage, she looks back to me, and she says, "Good luck with uni. Peace." And I'll never see her ever again. So we can speak slower, we can speak really, really fast when building up to things. And once it's slow, we can go really fast again, we can say everything that we ever wanted to say, and finally we're at the peak of the roller coaster again, and then we slow it down just before I go down again. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we can also contrast high energy with low energy. Big smiles, hands raised up in the air, bending legs up and down, almost bouncing or jumping. Okay, so I have a story. The one with my dad, we were watching soccer. Essentially, I'm building up to the story, climax building up. The score is 1-1, or we have to score a goal to win, to qualify or something. We're watching our team play on TV. And so we have a corner kick, and we kick the ball soaring through the air. The goalkeeper's off his line. Our striker jumps up to head the ball into the goal. And I say, everything seems perfect for us to score, right? So I'm just very high energy. My hands are raised in the air, almost bouncing up and down. Like, everything seems perfect for us to score. And then the TV freezes. That's kind of funny. And then so there's another one. Yeah, so eventually they score and everyone's excited. The whole world, the crowd is buzzing. Everyone's jumping around in the living room. Everyone is happy except for me. And in that moment, I realized I didn't enjoy watching football with my dad. You know what I'm saying? So it wasn't about watching football with my dad. It was about spending quality time. So everyone's happy, excited, high energy, except for me. So we're contrasting our hands up here with our hands down here, for example. It's always contrast, contrast, contrast. Then we have masculine and feminine flamboyance. So there's this guy online who's very, very tall and big, and he looks like a military soldier, bro. He's got loads of testosterone in him or something. And he's a very big masculine guy. And so he's naturally masculine. He doesn't need to be more masculine because he's 6'5", beard, thick hair, glasses, mean, scruffy, yeah. He's masculine. And then he contrasts his masculine nature, character, with flamboyant, almost feminine hand gestures. And that contrast is very effective in terms of persuasion and his charisma, his charm. Vanessa Van Edwards, she makes mention that essentially all that charisma is, or charm, is its competence plus warmth. So you're contrasting competence, masculinity, warmth. Not necessarily masculinity, but you get the idea here. When we look at models, male models, female models, they have a male's face will be largely masculine. He's a man, but then he has somewhat feminine features. He's got luscious, voluptuous lips. He's got very long, curly luscious eyebrows. He's got I don't know, very clear, soft skin. He's got, these curls. So there's always a masculine trait, but then he has a very strong jawline and a beard. Does that make sense? So it's contrasting masculine with feminine equals attractiveness. We're contrasting competence with warmth equals charisma. Here we're contrasting everything with whatever, everything with everything to create positive speech. So we're going to contrast our masculine. So there's times where I want to be strong. There's times where I want to have a strong stance. There's times where I want to point. And then there's times where I want to almost suggest an idea. Does that make sense? There's times I want to roll my wrist, almost like a Shakespearean, drama student. There's times where I want to have open palms, as if I'm suggesting an idea. There's times where I want to point almost slowly and slowly like that. Don't you want to go outside, my friend? I think it's best for you to step outside. You're quite disruptive in the lecture. So there's things like that. Then we have competence and warmth, stern-looking face with a warm smile, laughter versus cry. So in all of my stories rather, there's always loads of laughter. First, if it's a 6-minute story, there'll be about 5 minutes of straight up warmth and laughter and building up to things. And then I always end that laughter with a deep realization. That's where I'm sad. That's where I realize this stuff hurts. That's where people realize that, hey, this guy's actually human still. Let me step to the left so I can get a thumbnail here. How's that for a thumbnail? So that's where people, that's where the depth comes from. That's where the substance is. That's where you connect to people. That's where you move people. That's where things get done. All right. So you need highs, you need lows, you need yeses, you need nos, you need girls, you need bros, you need ones and you need O's, you need a nose and I don't know. Okay. You need a low, you need contrast. Okay. We don't ever want to operate down here. So this is a very important concept. I hope you can use it to guide you in your speeches or presentations or talks to come. Understand it's not blue and red. No, it's blue or red, not purple. I hope I was successful in kind of getting my ideas across here. I've used this and it's been very, very helpful for me. I hope it can be helpful to you. If you enjoyed this video, good. If you got value from it, good. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me in the comments. I will reply if you want. You can also check out the link in the description because it's free and I'll give you personalized advice. With that being said, I hope to see you in the next video and take care, my friend.